Right. Next, please.
In Somalia nowadays there is no central government.
No central government.
Yes, and there are two factions in the capital.
That there is no government or some divided governments?
Actually, there is no central government, but there are factions.
Factions?
Yes, separate factions which are not
command of certain areas.
That's right.
So they have their own governments then there?
They have got their own influence, but yes, they have got their own. Yes.
Of course, whenever politically it is not possible for an area to be without a government unless it's a state of anarchy. In a state of anarchy, everybody is free for himself and there is no hold of any people on anywhere. But this is not the state there. Some parts like northern Somalia
yes, there
is predominantly under the command of certain tribal people.
That's right.
The southern part, on the contrary, is under the command of a different tribal system. And within their own territories, they have law and order of their own.
Yes, I'm talking about...
Is that not right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right, yes.
I'm talking about the south.
About the south, that's right.
They have got two factions in the capital.
Achha.
And one faction is enforcing the Sharia law by imitating
forcibly
by crimes.
Yes.
And
the other faction?
Yeah. My question is, what is the Ahmadiyya point of view of this method of enforcing Sharia?
What Sharia?
They are imitating people, cutting hands of people for crimes.
This is possible if the people of the country in a democratic way legislate this. Without it, it is not possible. Because different people living in a country have different religions. And Islam dictates that you must rule with justice. It will be unjust to completely count them out of your computation. Those who are non-Muslims, as if they do not exist, as if they were not citizens of the country. The right of citizenship is very well guarded by the Holy Quran. Everyone who is born in a country, who is a part of a country, is whether he is Muslim, non-Muslim, believer, non-believer, as a citizen he has a right. And the whole Quran is a protest against those opponents of prophets who tried to deprive them of their fundamental right of citizenship. You see, this is the whole history of the prophethood about which we read in the Quran. So this is an important principle you must remember. Every citizen, whether he is a Hindu or a Christian or a non-believer, within a state where the majority are Muslims, has equal rights with all others as citizens. This is the meaning, وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ. Adl requires that all citizens must be equally treated. Now, if you enforce your Sharia on those people who do not believe in that Sharia, is it adl or not? This is the question. Tell me. If you were to dispense with adl, will you do that? Everybody's belief is for himself. So you cannot enforce the law of the land on a people which do not believe in your religious doctrines and dogmas, and you have no legality of a system other than with reference to what God revealed to you and your people. This is the case which is being discussed. The question is, what happened at the time of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he acquired the rights to decide through a common consensus of the people of Medina, through the charter of Medina. Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was unanimously elected as the chief who will decide in all matters of disputes. Matters will be refer to him. Now it happened many a time that a Jew came to quarrel with a Muslim or a non-believer or this and that. Different religious groups were there, but the domination was that of the Muslims. Whenever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was confronted with this problem of people belonging to different faiths coming to him with their disputes, he always gave them the choice. Would you like it to be decided according to your faith? Would you like it to be decided according to your book? Or would you like it to be decided according to the common custom? Or would you like it to be decided through arbitration? These were the three choices given by Rasulullah to all disputant parties. They made the choice, and then they were responsible for the decision. This is justice at its very best, because better performance of justice than that of Muhammad ﷺ cannot be conceived. So any system in the name of Islam which violates the principles established by him himself, anything in the name of Islam which violates the fundamental teaching of the Quran, وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ, that is not called Islamic. See? But without reference to Sharia, a democracy has a right to legislate for themselves. So if there is a majority of Muslims, it is quite likely that out of their preferences for Islamic teaching, they legislate not with reference to the Quran, but with reference to their own political rights, and adopt some Islamic systems of punishment, some Islamic manner of punishment for punishing the criminal. There is no lack of other in that. So when there is no government established, when there is no system of legislation, only one party gaining dominance or domination over others cannot seek its authority from the Quran directly against those who do not believe in that religion. Got it? Please. Now the question is very complicated, although I have tried to resolve it to a degree, but there are many possibilities which will create different situations. A multi-religious society is what is in view now, where there are Muslims, there are Hindus, there are Christians, there are Jews, and the Muslims are in majority. That is why it is possible for them to legislate only according to the Sharia of Islam. In that case, many problems will appear which will become insoluble. For instance, the marriage laws. They have their own marriage laws. The Christians have their own marriage laws based on the book. The Jews have their own marriage laws based on the book. They may interpret differently. They have their laws of how to eat and what to eat and so on and so forth. They have permissions regarding drinking wine or not to drink wine. Now, when you legislate in such a country in the name of the Quran that you must follow the Islamic laws, can they not quote the Quran against it, which says that whoever is, why don't you, O Christians, people of the book, if you are true, why don't you practice your own teachings? See, the Quran holds them criminal in the case as they do not, if they do not practice their own teaching, if they believe in it. Whatever you believe in, you must practice, is the repeated call of the Quran. From one end to the other, this is the principle which is repeatedly reminded to all people of the world. كبر مقتا أن تقولوا كبر مقتا أن تفعلوا. No, I'm sorry, just a minute. عند الله أن تقولوا ما لا تفعلون. كبر مقتا عند الله، یہ لفظ عند الله بھول گیا تھا. أن تقولوا ما لا تفعلون. This principle in different words is repeatedly mentioned, and as I have mentioned before, the Holy Quran pointedly addresses the people of the book and says, if you believe, why don't you act upon it? Act upon it. And then it says, whoever believes in other than believers in Islam, in something, in some book, and act thereby, and believe in the hereafter, God, they are safe with God. Their rights are safe with God. He will treat them kindly and will reward them instead of punishing them. So will not these people bring the Quran with them and show it to the legislators in Islam? Why don't you read the Quran before legislating? It gives us these rights. So the problem is not as simple as people think. The only way out will have to be to first of all decide unanimously, by calling all the leaders of the different religions, that shall we leave religion out of it and only accept the principle of adl, absolute justice, and then legislate together? Or shall we accept the position that every person will be permitted to follow his own religion in matters of human relationship? If you do that, the problem will still not be solved, because most of the religions have become distorted. The true teaching of their prophets are no longer trustworthy because they have been changed. So a person will have lessons from this and that, and there are other so-called religions which are cults, which have done away with most of the laws of the past. Then there will be the Pauline philosophy presented by Catholic Christians. They say, all right, if we must follow what we believe in, then St. Paul tells us that you are not obliged to follow the teaching of the Torah. You have been liberated. What a confusion will arise out of this. See? Don't ask that difficult questions, please. See? There are practices in Africa regarding their own way of marriage, and they can marry 100 times as well. And there are practices which do not require any form, which is to be recorded and which should be ceremonized. What they do is traditionally they do it, and this is okay by them. And there are women who marry many men in some ancient societies who still survive. So if they all say this is our religion and this is their religion, what will the mullah do there? And they show the Quran, look here. The Quran says, follow your own religion or you will be held responsible, punishable by God. So these are the problems which are very intricate. They cannot be resolved by passionate, by passionate adherence to the Quran in the name of God. We dominate everything. This is simply passion. This is not mind which is thinking. The Quran requires mind, and you have to apply your mind to the Quranic teaching and find out the best way of disposing of the matter of the state according to the Quran. In the end, adl will always be the most predominant thing, which will return to your mind. Whatever is adl, follow it. Forget about the rest. And through adl you can resolve all these problems, which means the participation of all these people in the legislation, in the lawmaking. Come to, as best as possible, joint decisions. Then there will be no problem left. The last is the verse which I quoted. I want to read it before you. Then you know the clear message of the Quran. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. This verse 69 of Al-Ma'idah. Qul ya ahlal kitabe lastum ala shay'in hatta tuqimu at-Tawrata wal Injil. Lastum ala shay'in. You're answerable before God until you do this. And when they do it, the mullah will say, you're answerable before us. What will the poor Ahl Kitab do then?